Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. This is episode 21, and today I am joined by men's lacrosse player Cam Glass. Cam and I sit down and talk about his journey to Marymount and taking on a new role for the Marymount men's lacrosse program and the importance of mental health and collegiate athletics. With that, let's talk with Cam. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Made by Marymount, the official Marymount Athletics podcast. This is episode 21, and today I'm joined by men's lacrosse player Cam Glass. Cam, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to get to chat with you today.
Yeah, I know.
So let's talk a little bit about lacrosse. Tell me how you got started with the sport.
So I started playing lacrosse, being from Maryland, young age. Probably 4 is when I first picked up a stick. My dad he was always my coach. I have 2 older siblings. He was their coach. So he was my coach for about 10 years till I got to maybe 8th grade. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, that's how I got started. My parents needed me to do something in the spring. I'm a heavy soccer player. I grew up being a heavy soccer player, and they were like, I think you should try lacrosse. And so yeah, they got it started like that. And just like I'm sure everyone else.
Right. Everybody starts at that young age. And getting to Marymount, you kind of have a unique story. You were a transfer here to Marymount. Let's talk a little bit about that process and, how you ended up here.
Yeah. So my first school is Aurora University, Aurora, Illinois. Not the most exciting town, which is probably why I transferred. But so yeah, I got there. I spent 1 semester there. When I was doing my recruiting there, they kind of sold me a different idea of what the school would be like. So when I got there, it was not really how I expected it to be. Academically, I was promised a little bit more of a challenging school, and they just weren't really offering that. Not trying to bag on the school too, by the way. It's a great school. But I got there, and the lacrosse team, they were great guys. I still am in contact with most of them. We had a good bond there. But I was just struggling being away from the East Coast.
Right.
It's a big change going from a small town in Maryland to one of the biggest cities in Illinois. So it was weird to be there, and I just felt like I kind of didn't belong there.
Right.
I felt out of place. I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like I should be here. So, November of that year, I talked to the head coach and I said, listen, I don't feel like I belong here. Mm-hmm. And what you were promising me wasn't exactly what I expected. So I said respectfully, I think I'm going to seek to transfer out. He was a great guy about it.
Right.
Obviously, I feel like you can't really,
if a player comes to you in that situation, I think it's and there's an amount of respect too to have for the player to come up and admit that.
Exactly.
Because some people will just sit there through it. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. But yeah, it was definitely a hard, the most challenging thing I've done in my life up to that point, because it's hard to be. That's kind of your first adult thing to do. Mm-hmm. To be I don't belong here. What are the steps I have to do to get out of here?
Right.
That's kind of my parents were very supportive to a point, but I was the one being there having these conversations with the coach and everyone. So, but it was a pretty seamless process other than just having the conversations.
Right.
Those were the hard part.
Right.
But then I got in contact with John Reynolds after I did all my NCAA stuff, and Coach Reynolds was beyond happy to let me come here, and I got recruited here my junior year of high school, so I wasn't.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't a foreign.
Yeah, it wasn't a foreign thing. This was my second choice, so.
Oh, really?
Worked out.
Yeah, there you go.
It worked out in a way. So, but yeah, Coach Reynolds. I had a conversation with him in December, and January I was arriving in Raleigh. So it was
sweet Raleigh.
Sweet Raleigh. It was amazing.
All right, so you came to Marymount. Let's talk a little bit about your experience here playing on this team and kind of what that's been like, because I know it's been a little bit of an experience for you, because you're now in a position that you have really never played before.
Nope.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I got here. I've always been a defensive midfielder. So I got here as a D-midi, and I expected to play as a D-midi.
Right.
But 1 year of high school, my senior year of high school, I did have some experience facing off, but still, like, not fully, like, involved in the position.
Right.
So it came in as a D-midi, expected to play that. I did, when Reynolds was bringing me in, he did say, is there a chance you'll try it? And I was like, no, like, I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it.
Is there a reason? Like, do you just, it's not your thing? Or it wasn't your thing?
I guess it wasn't my thing. It seems to be working out pretty well now. But, yeah, no, it wasn't my thing. It's a position that doesn't feel like you're truly playing lacrosse because I'm in for a minute, you know.
Right,
I do the face-off, hopefully win it, bring it down, pass it to an attackman, I run off. Like, it's a very short position. And I want it to be more involved in the team, more involved in actually playing, like, the sport I came here to play. So that's kind of why I didn't want to do it. But, yeah, so D-Midi came in end of my freshman year. We had one of the face-off guys quit. We had one left, and Reynolds was like, this is it. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to do it. You're gonna have to do it. Why don't you start practicing with the face-off guys? I was hesitant at first. The guy who was here, the one who was remaining, was one of the best face-off guys in Division III at the time. So it was him and then the most inexperienced face-off guy ever.
Two opposite ends of the spectrum.
Opposite, yeah, polar opposites. So me practicing with him was me just losing every single time, and it was not very fun.
Well, that builds character. So
it did build a thick skin to losing. Yeah, definitely. It got me used to losing just because it might happen a lot.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, then sophomore year rolls around, fall. I wasn't expecting to go back because we brought in another face-off guy, so I was like, all right, he has two. I'm not going to be a face-off guy anymore. I'm good. I did my time. Reynolds, please put me back on D-Midi. That's what I was thinking. I had my exit meeting too, and it was like, yeah, so D-Midi, I think it's going to be good for you. And I was like, all right, sweet, no more face-off. And then sophomore year rolls around, and Reynolds is like, I think you should stick with the face-off guys. And I was like, oh, man, this is going to be great. Then fall ball happens. I'm still a face-off guy. We usually we had 2 play days, so we played Widener and Eastern, and I was injured for that. So I never really truly got to face off in a real game. My freshman year, I only took like 10 reps, 16 reps maybe in a season, which is not a lot. Mm-hmm. And then fall, I was like, all right, this will be like a real experience because I'll be taking more reps.
Right.
I got injured, so I didn't even take any reps. And then end of the semester in fall, the older face-off guy decides to leave. So now it's just me and a freshman. So with both like same level of college face-off experience basically. And I was like, all right, I gotta take the challenge.
Right.
I have to, at this point I gotta step up, I gotta do my thing. I gotta practice. So I kind of figured this out end of the fall. So I was like, all right, winter break couldn't come at a better time. I can just go home, practice and get better at what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So I'm not just hurting the team by being there. So that's the approach I took, and it kind of worked out. I finished the year last year at like 50%, which is relatively
for somebody
average.
that's never done it before. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. And then this year I'm cruising out at 50% too. So
nice. And you guys are just like about halfway. You got a little less than a month, over a month left.
So this is our last out of conference game on Saturday. Then we're full conference. So I'd say, about a month left.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so let's talk conference play for you guys.
Okay.
You guys are in a very interesting position this year with one of your rivals, Cabrini, no longer being a school after this year. What does that mean for you guys, like, in knowing that now you have a really big opportunity in front of you?
Yeah, so this is definitely the biggest thing to happen to the program in a long time. Cabrini being such a dominant school. I think they're undefeated in the conference the past 15 years. It's just a crazy record that they have. So this year, yeah, we have the opportunity to really bind together and tackle this impossible force that it feels like has been in our conference for years.
Right.
So that's definitely adding like another layer to our season. Out of conference, we picked up a really hard schedule this year. We wanted to really challenge ourselves. So our out of conference schedule was just incredibly tough, and I thought that we did well. Considering that we're punching up, we're playing teams that are obviously like just powerhouses. So I thought we did well. I'm very proud of how we took how we approached out of conference play. But yeah, now conference play is coming in. We're usually pretty solid regarding the other teams, but Cabrini being on their last leg, and I think that gives them another drive.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful of that. We got to kind of manage our emotions with that game too.
Right.
This is it. And everyone on the team just wants to beat Cabrini.
Right, and I think, like you said, it's that they just are such a dominant force, and that, and you've accepted it, and now it's like, oh, things are different now.
Yeah.
And so it makes a whole different approach to the game in general, because you're like, man, like we have a chance here. I know when we had our conference meet my sophomore year, so the year last year. It really wasn't that long ago. But we had Cabrini was still in our conference at that point, and which they still are now. But their team is significantly bigger, and I know for us, like they're also a threat in swimming. So like now swimming this year, they have a significantly smaller team. It's like things are just different.
It's going to be incredibly different without them next year, and we don't know who's going to come in. That's another layer to it.
Right.
Cabrini, obviously being a dominant force, they could throw in a team like Messiah, who's on the rise, or a Hood College, who's always given us a challenge. So next year, if they don't add a team, that'll be good. That'll be good for us. But if they do, I mean, we got to just hope that it's a team that won't really be as dominant as Cabrini, because they could easily add in a team that is still like a challenging game, which would be good. I mean, obviously I love a challenge, but
right.
Senior year, I don't know. I think I kind of
like to end it with a ring.
I'd like to end it with a conference ring. Yeah,
that's fair.
Sure.
That's fair. It's pretty fun.
It is. Yeah.
So when you talk about your team, something that you and I discussed beforehand, something that's very important to you and your team as a whole is mental health.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
this is the first time it's really been brought up on the pod.
Wow,
so
that's amazing. I'm glad.
I'm here to talk about it. I'm going to let you kind of like lead this one, because I know there's a lot that you want to like discuss, and there's a lot of like different levels. So you kind of take the reins here.
Yeah. So I mean, mental health is obviously one of the most important things that anyone should be able to talk about. It shouldn't be this stigma. Yeah. Especially in men's sports, I think that it should be definitely spoken about all across the board. So yeah, last year we had a great opportunity. Our coach Reynolds, I mean, I think it was probably the best thing he could have done for the program. He brought in a sports psychiatrist, 2 actually. So
Gotcha.
We got 2 different people. It was awesome. So basically we would meet once a week, and she just laid down a foundation of how we should approach this, how we should be approaching these challenging times, how we should be approaching like the way we should talk to ourselves, the way we should breathe.
That's big.
Just like very, very big, especially self-talk, because there's a lot of stuff that people say to themselves, and I'm like that impacts you way more than you think it does. So yeah, she kind of taught us that foundation. We do breathing exercises, just like walking meditations. It was a really great opportunity. I appreciate it a lot, and I think a lot of the guys appreciated it, because we were just like, it seemed like every day was just a challenge.
Yeah.
For myself, and I'm sure for other guys, they're going to listen to this and be like, yeah, I think so too. But yeah, just last year it seemed like every day was just such a hard, like wake up, do the same thing, and you kind of get in that rut.
That is the hardest thing, I think, about being a student athlete. Like, yeah, your practices are hard, your games are hard, but you sometimes literally live the same day
Yeah.
over and over
It's like
and
Groundhog's
over
Day.
again.
It
Yeah.
feels like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah,
every
like
day.
I feel like and it's in a certain part of the season too. At the beginning of the season, you're okay. You know, it's new. You're back into it. You're exciting. Into the season, you're like, oh, we're almost done. It's been fun. But like right in the middle, you're just like,
Yeah, it's like a slump.
yeah,
You
exactly.
kinda like it goes up and then just peaks, goes down. So, and that's why it was I think so important to us last year. It just gave us that extra push. You know, middle of the season, I think we're at the same place we are now, like 2-7, going into our last conference game. So having that as like a thing to fall back on, you know, going every Friday it was like an hour, like nothing crazy, just every Friday for an hour, and having that though every week to push us into the game on Saturday was just such a relief. You know,
Right.
Now it's like a nice mental reset, and then you get to go into a game, and I'm sure that changed a lot of games that we played last year. I mean, it just gave us that nice boost, and it was. I keep saying it, but it was an amazing experience. It really was, and I'm very passionate about mental health. You know, especially in the lacrosse world, I've had a lot of, you know, teams I've been involved with, club, high school, college now, just struggle. A lot of kids struggle with mental health, so it's a very important topic for me. I love to give, you know, I want to be that person on the team that people can go to if they're ever, you know, having struggles or they just need someone to talk to. Like it's so important that guys have that outlet.
Yeah.
You know, especially on the team where it's someone you trust. You know, last year we had a great captain, Tim Rossler, who was always there for anyone if you ever needed. We had a lot of seniors last year who were very open about it, and they just offered that outlet, and I think it was amazing. And I'd like to have that this year. That's just super important. It builds a lot of chemistry. You know, when you know what someone else is going through.
It's a level of respect.
It is a level. Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's a level of respect.
Like, you know, it's one of those like things people always say it, but like you never know what somebody else is going through. You never know what battles somebody else is fighting. And so when you do know, you're like, man, like you just like, it's a human instinct for a lot of people, I think, to just be like, is there anything I can do?
Yeah.
Is there any way that I can help you? Because I think you and I are very similar in this way from what I'm telling. Like, you just hate to see people like upset. You hate to see people struggle. And you want to be there in any way that you can.
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And so when you were talking to the sports psychiatrist, like what was one of like you said self-talk was like huge. What was like one of like the biggest like takeaways that you think 20 years down the line, you know, you'll still remember talking about, learning about, enforcing maybe?
Yeah. So out of all those sessions, the most important thing was probably just being in like they emphasize the flow state a lot, allowing yourself to get into a flow state. So a lot of breathing exercise. I think breathing exercises is going to be my biggest takeaway. It's one of the most important things you could do for yourself. Just giving yourself 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just like honing it down, grounding yourself, breathing in, breathing out, just readjusting your mental state is one of the most important things that I took away from that last year. And then number 2, a very close number 2 is self-talk.
Yeah.
You know, if you go into a game and you're saying, oh, dude, this is going to suck, or we can't beat this team, we can't do that. I mean, you're already setting yourself up for failure. So her teaching us to, if you just take a second and say, I'm like, I know it sounds really cocky and arrogant, but if you're like, I'm the best, like, I know I can do this, I believe in myself. If you just say that, though, your body responds with that energy, and you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, how is anybody else supposed to?
Exactly.
And like that was something that I've like tried to do like over the year, like with swimming, because swimming's up and down for us. And so like if I'm not going to drop time, I'm not going to go faster. You're not.
Yeah, and
you're literally not. Yeah. If you're like, I can do this, I can go faster. It might happen. Sure, it might not, but it also it's a better chance of it happening rather than just being like, oh, this is going to be terrible.
But at least you believed in yourself. That's the thing. You believed in yourself, and it's more of a positive letdown if you don't achieve what you got. You're like, all right, you know, now I know what I need to work on. You know, I really thought I could do that. That's okay. Next time, I'm gonna be able to do it. Next rep, next meet, I'll be able to drop time, or next rep, I win that face off. It's just so important to talk highly of yourself. And I know, like, it sounds like such a basic, life lesson, but it is one of the most important.
Right. And it's something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yes.
And not being able to do.
Yeah.
So you talk about breathing exercises a little bit. Is that something you do like before every game or try to
I definitely try to. Before most big things in my life, I try to give myself maybe 5 minutes, even before like tests.
Yeah.
Like I just gotta, I'm stressed
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I need to take a minute here and just breathe a little. So yeah, it's definitely something I try to implement in my life at least maybe like 3-4 times a week.
Gotcha.
It's very important.
And so talking a little bit, what's your pregame like kind of routine? Like what are you doing before a game?
Pregame routine. Mine's kind of boring, but
that's okay. I'm always interested because everybody's is always pretty different. So these are always really interesting to me.
So a home game at, let's say 1 o'clock, set the scene. I'm waking up probably around 8. I like to wake up early. I'm going to a coffee shop and I'm getting coffee.
Okay, where are you going?
I live in Falls Church off campus. There's this place called Rare Bird.
I've seen Rare Bird. Is it good?
Oh my God. It is the best place
I've
ever been to. Best coffee shop ever.
All right, I'll have to try it. I always see it. So
it's so good.
This is a confirmation that I need to go.
Yeah,
okay.
It's really good. I go at least twice a week.
Okay, fair.
So Saturday mornings, I'm going to Rare Bird. I'm getting the cappuccino.
Okay.
I get a cappuccino and a sourdough biscuit with egg and cheese and bacon. So
okay,
it's very good. I do that most Saturdays. I will do that. Home games only though. Away games I don't have. Unfortunately, I don't have the time. But yeah, home game, Rare Bird, first thing. Come back. I always eat it there too.
Okay.
Just to get that coffee.
Right, because it's a different vibe. I get it.
It's a very soothing vibe.
Yeah.
To see people work. So I do that, and then I come home. Usually by then it's like 9 or 10. So I got at least an hour and a half before I have to go to the field again to start warming up. So I just make sure I drink at least like 3-4 cups of water before a game.
Right.
Just to make sure I'm really hydrated. And then I kind of just, sit on my phone.
Yeah.
I like to pretend that the game's not going to happen.
Okay.
Because it's just like, it's just another game. Like I've played it probably 1,000 games, so
right.
I don't want to give special attention to any game because it's like, well, I've done this a million times.
That's an interesting perspective. I like that.
So I just kind of act like, I'm just going to do a game. Like I'm just going to go play in a game.
You actually might be inspiring me to try something here. I'm going to be honest, because when we were at conference, I was like freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, and my mom was the one, she was like, it's just another meet. It's just another race. Yeah. You've done this race 1,000 times. And I was like, yeah, but it's different. Yes, but no.
It's not. It's not so different.
You're in a different setting maybe, but the race is still the same.
It's also
the game is still the same. Yeah. Rules are still the same. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hearing it twice, maybe mom was right.
I think she was, because I've been doing it for the past, 6 years.
Seems to work a little bit.
It works a little bit. But if you just act like, I know what's going to happen, especially if you start visualizing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, like, just like if I'm just sitting there before a game, I'm just kind of thinking like, oh, all right, so I'll probably, I'll win the first face off. Always like, I'll win the first face off. That's a definite. Like I say to myself, I'm going to win the first one. So yeah, I usually just sit there, visualize that. Maybe visualize me scoring. Usually doesn't happen, but I like to at least, trick my mind into believing it that it will. But yeah, so I just visualize a bunch of the game as I sit there, and then I'm like, all right, well, I'm time to go do it. Time to go play this game. And then after, I'm just like, oh, okay. It either went really well or it didn't. I don't really change what I do, though. I think it's just better to stay consistent.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how a lot of people are. Like, consistency is key in that situation.
Yeah.
Well, Cam.
Yeah,
I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I had a blast talking to you. And I think it was really important to touch on mental health. Like I said, it's never really been talked about too much here. And I think, like you said, it is something that should be talked about, and it's really important.
It is.
And I appreciate you for bringing up that topic. And, I'm excited for you guys. I think you have a big season coming up at conference play starting here soon. So I'm excited to see what you guys do this year.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.